under the EU Green Deal, which is the European implementation of the Paris Agreement, there is a distinct focus on new decarbonisation opportunities. And the Paris Agreement itself is actually heavily focused on improving food productivity and sustainable food productivity. And it recognises that soil, organic soil that's used in food production, grassland, tillage land, has the ability to sequester way more carbon than it currently is doing. And that's a simple process. It works by photosynthesis. Currently, carbon roots, the roots of plants and grass sequester carbon into the soil, but our current industrial practices of using a lot of chemical fertilizers and things like that mean that the process isn't very efficient and it's not truly organic carbon that's been sequestered. So the Paris Agreement is focused on reintroducing organic farming to a scale that will allow increased production of food, and at the same time reinvigorating soils, improving the carbon content. Why is carbon and soil carbon more important now than it was before? In principle, the international climate agreements have changed. So the Kyoto Protocol, which has been in place for more than 20 years now, that comes to an end at the end of 2020. And from January 2021 onwards, the Paris Agreement actually only comes into effect from that time onwards, and it applies for the next 10 years. And the difference between Kyoto and Paris Agreement is Kyoto was focused exclusively on above ground greenhouse gas emissions. So things like emissions from fuel burning or combusting or exhaust pipes, etc., etc. But actually the Paris Agreement is gone much further. It's taken in far more scientific considerations, and it recognised that it's more about carbon and decarbonisation as a whole, and different ways by which the planet can be encouraged to decarbonise without being solely focused on energy in particular. And agricultural land has probably the biggest opportunity to support decarbonisation, because the natural process of grass growing, roots filtering out into the soil, grass being harvested or being grazed, essentially root systems are injecting carbon into the soil constantly. And the Paris Agreement and the new IPCC procedures recognise that can be further encouraged to such an extent that a simple 0.4% increase in soil carbon, for instance, can be sufficient to displace the total human-based greenhouse gas emissions into the atmosphere. So carbon could actually be far more significant currently, soil carbon in particular. So productive agricultural land can sequester more carbon than typically even a rainforest. So tropical rainforest, a hectare of tropical rainforest does sequester carbon, but mostly in the trees, in the trunk, so to speak. Grassland will actually sequester more carbon in the same land area, but also be productive to support food production, both as fodder for animals and as food for us as humans.